Welcome to House of Hops podcast. We are in our guest series, which is Turning Your Pain into Purpose. And today we have Andrew McCann, who is the founder of Your Angels Inc. And I will let him kind of get into what that is. But I've known Andy. Well, you go by Andrew now, right? Like we're adults. So you're
Either
not.
or, but yeah, it's funny because
um,
my wife called me Andrew because she met me in college, but all my old friends still call me Andy. So
Andy.
anytime like she slips and says Andy, I'm like,
I didn't know you then.
yeah,
Or she hears somebody call you Andy. She's like, oh, they're from school.
right, exactly. I can. It's easy because I can identify like who's who based on what they call me.
Like, how long have I known you? Okay.
Right, exactly.
um, but yeah, and Andrew, actually, so we've known each other for a long time. Probably didn't really talk through college or anything. I mean, just like social media, which is the great thing about social media. You can kind of stay connected with people. But when William died, I reached out. I guess I must have just seen your posts from um,
My
your
Facebook.
loss and starting the company and was super interested in it. So, just a quick what Your Angels Inc. is it's tattoo ink, but it has ashes of your loved one inside the ink. He'll use the technical terms for you guys, but that is what it is. That's why I reached out to him. So I wanted to have you on today to kind of tell us your story, how this came about, and just kind of tell us like what this healing process has looked like for you.
Sure. So I guess we'll go back from the beginning. We had a daughter on October 9th, 2018. She was our firstborn, and everything was perfect. She was a little early, but very, very healthy. Never had any issues or anything like that.
So
Um,
adorable. The
oh, she was.
cutest little
She was
girl.
I know. I think there's a picture of mom up there. Yeah. Oh, I'm always backwards. Yeah, mom and Charlotte. Her name was Charlotte. Charlotte Reagan McCann. And on my 30th birthday, I woke up and we found her. Still, she had died of SIDS in the middle of the night. Probably around 3 a.m. or so. Um, and as you can imagine, worst thing you can think of happening. Kind of put everything, into perspective, humbles you down quite a bit. And it's something that, losing a child is, I don't think there's any other feeling or any other kind of type of example that you can give to kind of describe how that feels to somebody.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of struggle with me personally, obviously my wife too. Um, Trying to figure out just what our day to day was going to be from then on. We woke
Mhm.
up every morning with our clear cut plan of what our purpose in life was, what our what we were meant to do. We finally got that feeling, and then in an instant, it was completely ripped away from us. So the hardest part was the adjustment period, right? Like waking up and not having that. Um, and I found myself um, really struggling with living, to be honest, because again, my purpose had been taken away. So I didn't really see a point in life at the time. And I'm not saying I was suicidal or anything like that, but I was majorly depressed, and you know, grief comes in waves. We always explain it as
Mhm.
coming in waves. The wave can be a big wave or it could be a really, really small wave, but the
Mhm.
waves are inevitable nonetheless. And it can hit you out of the blues just like that. And we weren't really finding good ways that we could cope. Luckily, my wife and I were pretty um, cohesive in our wavelengths, I guess I could say, like in a sense that it was we didn't really hit huge peaks of waves together at the same time. So we weren't both melting down at the same time. It kind of always worked out to where if I really needed her, she was able to be that person for me. And if she really needed me, or if she was really going through a hard time, then I was not at a peak where I could be able to take care of her too. And it just fortunately worked out that way to where we were boosting each other up and supporting each other. And I read a statistic online that like 95% of parents who lose a child end up in divorce.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on it because I don't know if that's the exact number or not, but and that's kind of where that thought had never really crossed my mind, right? So like that's kind of one of those things that I feel very fortunate in the partner that I chose. That that was never an option for me or her. We both kind of decided that we're going to get through this together, and we're going to get through it by helping each other out, and we did. Um, Shortly thereafter, though, I did get laid off from my job 3 months after. So in March, we found out that I was going to get laid off, and the effective date was April. Um, I think I found out in February, March, and yeah, I just kept spiraling. There was not really anything that I felt that I needed to do anymore.
Mm.
Um, and shortly after Charlotte had passed, my brother, obviously, he lives in Atlanta, but he came down and kind of consoled us and hung out with us and just kind of made sure that we were okay. And I had never had a tattoo in my life, kind of like you. You had never had a tattoo either.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me, and I never had a plan to get one. I never thought of anything that I would like to have on me that long. But my brother was down, and we were sitting on the back porch of my grandmother's house, and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about maybe just getting a tattoo to kind of memorialize her?" I was like, "No, maybe, but not really, something that I think I don't know, maybe, I don't know." It kinda just like a brush thought, right?
Mhm.
That thought really stuck with me, and I found myself kind of trying to figure out how I could commemorate her and memorialize her in a really cool tattoo idea. Um, and I came up with, some ideas. I started drawing. I never really drew before. So I started like coming up with like designs and stuff that I would like to do for some tattoo ideas. And I was a bio med major in college, and my brain is always kind of, I have ADD. I mean, my brain never stops moving. And I'd seen something on Instagram or Facebook or something like that where somebody had gotten a memorial tattoo, and the artist had sprinkled some ashes into the tattoo ink before the tattoo.
So,
And
like, sprinkle the ashes onto the tattoo?
it's in the ink. So like they pour the ink
Okay,
into the little thing, and then like the tattoo artist would sprinkle ashes into it. And apparently it's a lot more common than I had thought.
okay.
But my biomed major background kind of like kicked in. I'm like, well, that's not sterile, because it's
What I was thinking.
yeah, it doesn't seem like a safe idea. Not only that, but cremated remains as they are very thick and not something that is capable of going through a tattoo needle, let alone into your skin. And if for God forbid that it does, it can cause what's called an ink blowout. What happens is the fragment or piece will get into the skin, and the ink will kind of spill out under the skin, trying to because it doesn't really have anywhere to adhere to. So
Hmm,
you get what's called
okay.
a little ink spot, and it kind of ruins the tattoo. So I started thinking of ways that could be incorporated into it, and I came up with an idea maybe to like do. Obviously she was cremated. I should probably start with that, but we were trying to figure out ways to like use her ashes in cool ways. So we thought of doing like painting, like a painting with some ashes into it. But my head kept going back to this tattoo idea. So I kind of just dove into it at one point, decided that I was going to try to figure out a way to where I can make it safe for ashes, cremated remains to go into tattooing. And I consulted with my cousin, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and had gone through, obviously med school and everything like that, and kind of put our heads together. And I did a lot of research on my end too. And I think the first thing that we discovered was that the ashes have to be small enough to be able to go through um, a tattoo gun. And then I started thinking about it more, and realizing that ashes are just carbon, and the pigmentation in tattoo ink is just made out of carbon. And back in the day, I mean, so memorial tattoos are not anything new. They've been doing this for thousands of years, actually.
Hmm.
They used to make tattoo ink out of ashes, ground it up, and ashes would become tattoo ink because they were pigmented black.
Huh.
So they would actually use ashes, not necessarily from people, but regular ashes to make
Fire.
tattoo ink out of. Yeah. So I did a lot of research on like the grinders and things that I could make these ashes small enough into, and then decided that ultimately the idea would be to infuse the ashes into the tattoo ink instead of making them a part of the tattoo ink. Or mixed in with tattoo ink. They're actually a part of the tattoo ink, part of the pigmentation. So we designed a way to do that, using thermal sterilization for the tattoo ink or for the ashes, because a lot of people would assume that cremated remains would be sterile because they were, you know,
in the
uh,
fire.
brought to really high temperatures, right? But they also scoop the ashes out with something. They put it into a bag, and then that bag, whatever. So nothing about it is sterile after the actual incarceration or the incineration part. So we figured out a way we can thermosterilize the ashes and reduce them into a microgranular level to where they're actually being mechanically agitated into the tattoo ink itself and becomes part of the pigmentation of the tattoo ink itself, so that every drop of tattoo ink that you're putting into your skin has a part of that person that you want in your tattoo in it. So once we finalized the whole process and got it up and running, we obviously were the test dummies. And like I said, I had never gotten a tattoo, and now I'm, kind of committed to the idea.
The memorial arm over there.
Yep. And I got my side done as well. That was my first tattoo, was my side, but I probably sound like I'm rambling. Um, so we wanted to, I thought this would be a really cool idea for other people too.
Yes.
So we had already invested all this stuff into like making the ink and my ideas were, I was like, nobody is nobody's doing this. I looked it up. There was nobody doing it. I think there was one other tattoo company or one other company in the world that was doing something kind of like it, but I don't think it was their primary focus. Um, so we started a business. We called it Your Angels Inc. My wife and I together, and made it live in April of 2019.
Mhm.
And I guess the rest is history. We've helped so many people since. I mean, you being one of them, obviously.
Yeah.
And then that was the whole point of this, was it gave me a purpose again, right? So I went from waking up every morning and not knowing what I was going to do with my life anymore to now I have a reason to get out of bed and actually help other people that have been through similar situations. And I don't know how far in you want to get, but the my favorite story to tell is about our first customer ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's hear it.
we I don't remember the exact date that we went live, but I was terrified, right? Like, I was like, what if I get bombarded with like, all these orders and I don't, don't know what to do. And so I remember I was sitting at my desk and I hit publish website and I just sat. I was like, well, nobody's gonna be able to find. Yeah, so all right. So I'm probably gonna figure out some marketing and stuff like that, right? I got some SEO, search engine optimization, some advice from other people, and integrated into the website. And we got our first call like a week later. And I was sitting in my office at the desk, and I picked up the phone, and there was a man on the phone. And I answered, "Hello, this is Your Angels Inc. I'm Andrew. How can I help you?" And you could tell that he was hurting badly, and he told me his name was Joe Ventimiglia, and his son died yesterday. He was 20 years old, and he was devastated and didn't know what to do. And he started doing the same thing I did, like trying to figure out what we can do, what you can do. And our website popped up, and so he called immediately without, I mean, doing anyway. He just called,
Yeah.
um, and we talked for about an hour. Uh, we both cried together, told stories about our kids, and he shared his ideas for his tattoo that he'd been thinking about all day, and it was just a really um, gratifying phone call. It kind of reconfirmed everything that I had kind of thought and put into this idea that had finally come to fruition, and I'm
Very
actually
validating.
it's
Like
very
this
validating.
is
I'm able to help someone now, and this is my first
yeah.
person that I'm going to help, and he has a very similar story. He got to know his kid for 20 years, which is awesome. Um, and now he has a really cool memorial piece on his whole arm as well, to commemorate his son, his lost son, and we still keep in contact, and we like to say, we're bonded for life. I wrote a blog shortly after that kind of explains that unfortunate bondage that you now share with people that you wouldn't have had anything in common with prior to. And
Yeah.
um, it's nice to have other people that have been through similar things, and you're actually able to help them.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it's
Yeah.
literally like the quintessential the journey to get there was painful and terrible, right? But then there's so much, at least for me, I think you'd agree, there's so much healing in being able to help somebody else through something that you've experienced because you know how terrible it is.
Right.
So to be able to turn around and be like, I get it. And you may not get it in the exact same way, but like I get it. And
Mhm.
it makes it, you're not alone in that pain, which
Right.
I think is so helpful. And then I know your ink for me was it's huge, right? Like our whole family, I think a few of William's friends even used it. So I don't know at what point I had reached out to you. It wasn't right after, but we had
Mhm.
gotten our from the hospital. We got the what are they called here? Your medical this thing, um, the
Oh,
heartbeat.
the EKG?
Yes. So we got pictures of it. And really, what we needed it for in the first place was at his celebration of life. We had those rubber wristbands printed,
Mhm. Yeah.
and we got a picture of it on there. So everybody had it on a wristband, and it was his final heartbeat.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I had the papers. It's the only reason I had the picture. And then when I saw, like, I thought about your ink and put them together, and I was like, we were cremating him clearly. And I was like, oh, that would be so cool. Told my family about it. Everyone was like, yes, get this ink. Um, so I reached out to you, got the ink. My whole family uh has the EKG on our arms. My mom got his name on her wrist in the ink. I actually have he drew this rose, not good camera angle, but he drew the rose. And my brother also, we found like a piece of paper that he had sketched on that William sketched all over. And so a bunch of us had gotten the EKG, but then Matthew and I wanted a matching one. So we got the rose and we did all these on his 18th birthday. So he died in September, turned 18 November or December 10th. And
Mhm.
so on his birthday, before we went and spread his ashes, we all went to the tattoo place that actually you recommended.
Yep.
Um, that guy was amazing. We got our tattoos done. And I will say, just this is not a paid ad, I promise, but the ink it is amazing. So at the same time I got the tattoos for William, I got one for my dad, but it didn't logically make sense to me to use William's ink for my dad's tattoo, even though I was getting the other tattoos. And I was like, that's weird. I'm just going to use normal ink for my dad's tattoo. But the ones that are done in your angel's ink are so like they're thin and perfect. Like they have not bled at all. And the one I have for my dad, you can't really tell on the camera, but it's just normal ink. And it's not, I wouldn't say it bled, but it has like, it's kind of like on the edges a little
Like it
bit like
expands a little bit, yeah.
yes, yeah, it looks completely different, like, they're very clearly nobody would know if I didn't tell them, but, like, if you look at it,
Yeah.
you're like, "Yeah, that's 2 different inks." So not only is it just, like, amazing tattoo ink, but, yeah, I never thought I'd get a tattoo, but for me, this was such a cool way to, like a process of the healing and be like, I literally have him with me forever,
Right.
to have his ashes in it. And then my cousin and I there was a little cross that he had doodled. We got him on our ankles. I really want to get a sunrise because that's a symbol of us, a symbol of him for our family. So I want to use the ink to get that. But a lot of people, I think, have found healing through it because, again, our families use it. A few of his friends have borrowed it to use it. And when I say borrowed, they kept it, on their body, but they
Yeah.
borrowed the
Not giving that back.
container.
Yeah.
And it's such a good way to like, I don't know, keep them with you forever instead of in, a box on a mantle or
Right.
something that you can't really like internalize and take with you wherever you go. So I'm so grateful. I hate that you experienced what you did. I hate that you guys lost Charlie. And so she was 2, 3 months.
Just 2 months, yeah, 68 days.
God, she was, I mean, like, such a sweet stage of life, what should have been such a sweet stage, and I hate that, but I also am just so grateful for what you've done with that pain to help other people. Because I know you've helped countless others, but you've definitely helped me, you've helped my family. I just think it's such, like, an amazing, amazing concept. The whole thing is just I love it so much. Like every time I try to find the right time to recommend it to someone because it's not gonna be like, oh, so and so died. Hey, you should go get this tattoo.
Yeah.
But I love to like share that with people and be like, hey, if you're looking for a way to, I don't know, heal and memorialize them, like this to me was just such a cool thing that I never thought in my life I would do. And
Yeah.
it was probably one of the best physical things I've done since.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was the reason we did this. When when we got Charlie's ashes back, we had 18 people get tattoos with her ink in it. And not just family. I mean, like, all of our friends, all of
Yeah.
her aunts and uncles, we had a big day of it. Brian, the tattoo artist that I recommended to you, he was really, really cool about it. I think we had a total of 12 um, a- appointments that day that we all did it. And then, more people kind of trickled in later and
Yeah.
throughout um, later. But yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah.
We had her picture up on the wall. Everybody, we were talking about her, and it was one of those things where, at a memorial service, it's sad, and you try to call it a celebration of life, but ultimately it's a sad day,
Yeah.
right? And it's one of those things that you look forward to being over, and try to find some way of healing. And one thing that we always say is you never move on, you move forward.
Mhm.
So this was a celebration for her that we got to do that was fun and happy, and everybody was laughing and telling stories, and enough time had passed where it wasn't a week after, and everybody was still fresh. Obviously, it was still fresh for us. And, I'm not saying it
Yeah.
wasn't, but it was enough time to where we can start, remembering stories and smiling again. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what we did the whole day, and it was great. It was a wonderful day, and that also solidified it too, that this is something that I really want to pursue.
Yeah. No, it is. It's such a good experience. Like, I remember that day, and I think without that, his birthday, like, it was sad and hard regardless, but the good memories of that day were us going to the tattoo shop and have a mimosa and,
Yep.
laughing, my brother cringing, getting this tattoo on his rib cage. I'm like, "Bro, that looks terrible." Like,
Yep.
it was it was a distraction in the best way because we were still,
That's a good word for it. Yeah.
yeah, like, focusing on William, but able to smile through it too and be like, "This is something super cool we're doing together." And you mentioned before the statistic that may or not be super accurate, but like I'm 0% surprised by that. With the divorce, like if a couple loses a child, I can totally see how that would rip a couple apart. I The same thing happens, with families. You lose somebody and it kind of tears families apart because people grieve in different ways and they shut people out and people don't understand it. And it is such a hard thing to navigate, and I think this is something that, like, brought us even closer together, right? Like, now we're all bonded in this way too, like, look at this tattoo we all have,
Yep.
and I also love, if people ask about it, it's also
Right.
kind of cool because I think that's another hard part when of loss, like, you meet these people through your life that may have come in after that loss, right? And don't even know you lost somebody, and it's not that you want them to know, but it is such a big part of you. You're not like, "Hey, let me tell you I lost somebody."
Right.
It's part of who you are, and at some point, if they're really gonna get to know you, they need to know that part of you,
Exactly. And that's
and
one of those things too that we didn't want to we didn't want to stop talking about her. We didn't want
yeah,
to eliminate her from our life. We want her to be a focal point for certain conversations, and
yeah,
this allows that to happen. I mean, I still will go up to some of my buddies, if we get together for whatever reason, and I'll just touch their tattoo, or I'll be like, one of those things. Like, I love that you did this. This is
yeah,
something that we share, and it was a great experience.
yeah, it's awesome. I, do have a question slightly unrelated. I know you've had I think 2 boys since, right?
Yeah.
How's that?
They are at very interesting, I'll say, stages in life. So Corbin will be 5 in February, and
Goodness.
Colin will be 3 next week. So it's chaotic here, very,
Yeah,
very often, more often than not. But it's great. They know who their sissy is.
good.
We pray to her every night. We talk about her. She's still a part of our family and always will be. But it's a change of pace.
Yeah.
It's a change of pace.
Oh, I love that though.
Yeah.
That was actually gonna be my next question because one of the things we focused on in House of Halls and had a few discussions around is kind of talking to your kids about grief and loss.
Yeah.
And you're in such an interesting space where she was gone before they were in the picture.
Yeah.
But I love that they already know who she is. Like, they're gonna grow up knowing their sister is Charlotte,
Yeah.
and like, it's not like you need to, break it to them at some point in their life, like, that she's still a part of their life, she's still a part of your family, like, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, they stood, we have when they're in VPK and things like that, they have to draw like family trees, or if they have to like tell about their family and stuff like that. And it's always cool whenever they come home, and then I'll see like a little baby on the side, and that's Charlotte, Daddy. So it's really 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 cool. And it's interesting too that you mentioned that having to like tell them, because it's always kind of just been a part of our story. Like it was never like a deciding moment where we sat down with the kids and we're like, you had a sister, or you have a sister, and she's not here with us physically anymore. She's up in heaven or whatever. It kind of organically happened because she's so integrated into our lives all the time that we always talk about her. So there was never a question of like, who's Sissy, or where did that go? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously conversations have unfolded following it, but they've always had the fundamental understanding that they do have a sister, and that
Yeah.
was very very important for Carly and I to to instill in them, is that they do have a sister, and she's still watching over them.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, I love that. I hate your pain, but I really think God is using you and Carly to help other people through theirs. I know I've already said it, but you've helped me through mine so much. So I'm so, so grateful. I'm grateful that our paths ever crossed. I'm grateful for social media, or I never would have known about it.
right.
But yeah, I think it's super cool. And I thank you so much for coming on here
Of
today.
course.
I did see when I was looking up your website, one more thing. Now it says your Pets Inc. too. So you guys have moved to doing pets?
So that's yes. So we've always done pets, right? People called seeing the website and say, "Hey, can you do my dog or whatever?" Absolutely. If they were cremated, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we did rebrand it a little bit because I was a little nervous when we started doing pets that it would be kind of like a. I didn't want people to be like, "Oh, well, they do animals too." It kind of sounded weird to me to like do them
Yeah.
at the same under the same umbrella, I guess, as
Yeah.
something for like a family member. But the more conversations that I had with people, I started realizing that you know they are family members. That
Yeah.
they are a part of the family just as much as a person, and so we kind of got rid of the logo and the thing of Pets Inc. and kind of just incorporated it all because of that
Yeah.
feedback that I was getting from people about it. And yeah, there's been some really cool stories and stuff that we've been a part of with some societies for animals and stuff. And it's been a very interesting journey from conception to now.
Never thought it would pivot there, huh?
Never. There's a lot of things where I'm like, huh, okay.
That's so cool though. So it was 2019 when you started it. So you're going on this was your 5.
Yeah, we're at 5 years now.
That's so cool. I
Yeah,
love it.
I do too.
Where can for the people that may not be actually watching the video where they can see your website or how to find you, how can people, if they want to reach out, how can they go about that?
I mean, you can just Google Your Angels Inc.
Okay.
And it'll be the first thing that'll pop up. Or you can just go to yourangelsinc.com. I know it's a mouthful, but we wanted to make sure that we kept that part of the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
very
yeah,
simple.
yourangelsinc.com. And then you can go to the shop now, but we also have a section where you can read about what happened and things like that too. So yeah, check it out. And if there's anything that we can do to help, we'd be more than happy to.
Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much for sharing your story and taking your time today to be with us. And I'll be praying for you guys. And
I got you.
again, just super grateful. And I hope that more people can hear this and we can help them too.
Me too.